Welcome to the GrowingCircle Data Templates Awareness. Watch the video, and after, if you want to have a certification, you need to fill in the form answering to the questions. You get the certification if you answer correctly to 6 out of the 10 questions that we have for you. Enjoy and gain knowledge on the data templates. Welcome to this first part of the introductory concepts on data templates. This part is endorsed to all agents in the construction industry who need, at some point in the productive chain, information related to construction products, systems, or components that hereafter will be assumed as construction objects. This part, the learning outcomes are the following. So awareness on data templates, it's one of the, main outcomes that we would like you to have, to be aware of the relevance and role of data templates and their positioning, and gain competency to identify the role that data templates play on the integration of data, as Eilif was saying, and mainly in terms of efficient and sustainable construction. So the objectives target data templates characteristics and functions, comprehension that data templates are data-driven elements and that range the building's life cycle, and identify outcomes from data templates deployment for a more efficient and circular construction. Having said that, let's start with a situation that is not from the construction industry, but might be more close to all of you on a daily basis. The process of acquiring or selling a car, or at least part of this process, is nowadays carried out using the internet and searches that quickly return a list of available platforms dedicated to this business. These images represent 2 examples of platforms where some decision support filters are identified. These filters might have different complexity and may or may not be filled. However, they have common aspects. This is data fields that are relevant for the subject that we are dealing with, that is automobile industry. Make, body, and price are 3 common data fields that we identified in both platforms. However, these are differently understood in terms of importance by overall entities involved, such as the buyer, the seller, or the car manufacturer. In addition, it is also essential to understand that these data fields are only a small part of the properties that constitute the necessary data envelope to carry out the business of buying and selling cars. Yet, these are at the forefront for the buyers when are doing their decision process. This is a relatively simple and immediate example that aims to provide common understanding on the environment and on the purpose of the topic that we have here today in hand. It is also relevant to highlight that even this simple example that is spread worldwide and is working has a significant complexity in terms of the data that is behind those platforms. This is, I would say, properties or the data that we need to bear in mind, that it is the wide range of data that we need to understand that is relevant for the business. Depending on the different approaches, on the different roles it might be necessary to systematize other data fields or prioritize one related to the other. Aside from the approaches, it is clear nowadays that these platforms aim to bring efficiency to the car purchase or sale process, as well as enhance the decision support based on a consistent information environment. Complementary, many of the previous mentioned characteristics will be part of the vehicle registration certificate that most of you might have. So what this has to do with construction, how it is similar, how it is different. In the construction industry, there are initiatives to collect data from construction products and to create digital passports for these same products. The undergoing process for reviewing the construction product regulation is key for what is defined as the Smart CE mark, but it is mainly focused, as it is nowadays, on performance properties. There is also environmental product declarations that focus on environmental and LCA data, and there are several concepts that are coming related to circularity, such as digital product passports, circular material passports, product circularity datasheets, among others. All these concepts aim to aggregate digital data from construction products to support the collection, the management, and specific uses of that data in a process for a specific group of stakeholder, for a specific stakeholder, or to a defined outcome or deliverable somewhere across the stages of the construction process. So why it is important in the construction industry to think really on this? As we've seen, the car platforms contribute to a streamlined access to different types of data, enhancing commercial exchanges. In the construction industry, the challenges might be wider, specifically if we want to make a link to outcomes as those previously referred, or others that will integrate part of the data that exists in construction products. To structure the construction objects related data in a standardized way, it is key as a contribution to mitigate common problems, namely the loss of information exchange or duplication of unproductivity work, either by introduction by hand of data sets about objects in models or tools to perform analysis. So this is a specific product, a sandwich panel, that will help us as a practical example through this presentation. Within the context of a construction process, different stakeholders will have different knowledge and different requirements about the very same product. The designer might ask for performance properties. The person that is responsible for waste plans will be asking for European waste codes. The one for the maintenance plan wants the dimensions and warranties. The construction company wants to know things about the cost, warranty periods, alternative solutions, among others. So this is the environment that we have on construction today. They need this information to produce specific outcomes during the construction process value chain, from the design to the end of construction. The manufacturer provides this information in very different ways. This actually represents a real example that happened when asking for product data for a specific project. Some of the elements were provided in PDF documents, others were provided only by phone, and others were asked, and the manufacturer did not know what we were talking about. So this is what happens today, and what we know is that this situation, due to the digitalization and due to the integration needs, must change. Many of the reasons why this issue is important have been studied and systematized. I bring here some of the findings that were structured by Paul Sorin to highlight some of the ones that we feel that are at the forefront when dealing with an action such as the one that we had today, that is awareness action. And the low data quality and lack of data governance, that is the previous slide, I would set it at the forefront. Then there are fragmented vendor landscapes. There are several platforms that are offering services that tend to be digital. But what happens, and that is the worst part, is that we can have a fragmented vendor landscape if the interoperability is not limited. But what we are getting nowadays is that this interoperability is non-existent or very limited. As well, and this is the purpose that we have in hands, insufficiently skilled labor to implement this is still an issue that we have in hands. Thus, considering the example of the sandwich panel manufacturer, in addition to structuring the technical information regarding its products, other requirements might need to be answered properly. The production of documents in PDF is a digital solution, but a close one, and therefore, to ensure an efficient use and safe use of the construction properties, we need to do more. The international community has developed a philosophy for a data framework that aims to be capable of meeting all the demands, and that must be set as a background to all definitions and concepts that we previously mentioned. And these structures are the data templates in accordance with ISO standard 23387. This standard defines the concepts and principles related to data templates. As we can see, data templates are standardized, interoperable metadata structures used to describe the characteristics of construction objects. There are common assumptions for other narrower concepts. The standard defines two fundamental aspects of data templates: the framework, as we'll see in detail, and the machine readability. The ISO standard defines the structure of data templates as we present here, where the properties and the systematic indexing to reference documents are key elements, namely to ensure consistency of terminology and reliability of requested data. Data templates apply to a construction object in abstract, that is, the data template identifies the requirements defined as properties that make sense or that are applicable to a certain type of product. These specific products result from filling in values to this skeleton of properties, as we will see. Properties can exist in groups of properties, and each property has a quantifier or measurement convention with its units. For the case of a specific product, values are addressed to the properties, and the set of values filled in for the different properties generates a datasheet in accordance with the ISO standard. Again, affiliated concepts such as material passports, in order to provide an effective response to the sector, must be understood as a set of data structured in accordance with this ISO standard. This means that datasheet derived from a data template is and will support most of the necessary data for a material passport. How does this framework work in practice? So let's go back to our sandwich panel example. A sandwich panel fits into roofing materials according to two classification references, one European, that is the common procurement vocabulary, and the other that is a worldwide classification system, that is the United Nations Services and Products Classification System. Others can be used. This product type in particular is framed by the harmonized product standards AN 14509, defining the scope of the data template. One example of properties that can be part of data templates is the waistcoats. These fit in a group that can be called CDW, and the reference document is the new EU directive. Thermal conductivity is also a property that must be declared within the product's CE mark, so it may belong to that group of properties. In this case, the property is referenced to the harmonized standard, and the group of properties is framed by the construction products regulation. As example, is the one related to environmental product declarations. EPD's developments are framed by ISO 4025, and the global warming potential is part of this. There is already an ISO standard, and more are to come in other topics that frame the group of properties as part of data templates. And in this situation for EPD is the ISO standard 22057. Back to thermal conductivity, this property has defined units, and the applicable value results from specific products, giving rise to the datasheet in accordance with the ISO standard. As mentioned, there are two key elements in data templates. These are the skeleton with the relationships and the machine readable ability. For this second part, ISO 23386 is the standard to ensure it, and the next presentation will explain how. One question may be then asked: does a construction product manufacturer has to structure all this information? The answer is no. Construction product manufacturer or trader should concentrate on the values related to the properties of their products so that they can be contextualized with the data template of that type of product, thus producing a metadata structure according to the standard, which will be available in a product catalog and which will be able to link this data to other systems, for example, 3D modeling systems. So what are the added value of the data templates for the industry? And these are some of them. So we can see that the information related to the construction objects will be digital and it will be traceable. There are no spreadsheets or other files to translate information from one tool to the other. It also supports FM or digital twins, as the ILIF presented. It is a scientific work that we developed as we position data templates as key enablers for digital twins. Also, we put data into the contexts, and if we are thinking in one outcome, the data is there. If we are thinking in other, the data remains there. The data template environment as presented here is relevant for the purpose of awareness and also to frame other concepts surrounding digital, interoperable, machine readable, and traceable data related to construction products. As presented, this is part of a wide and structured effort. It is an ongoing one, and we must say, and many other elements or pieces of the puzzle are to come in the next years. In brief, the construction object property systematization according to the data template framework allows the effective digitalization and consistency of the information throughout the construction processes. A given property can then be used throughout the construction process for various analyses, deliveries, or verifications, as we can see here with the example of the thermal conductivity. If we go back and we look to the circularity or to the waste property that we identified, we can also add material passports and waste audits. So, essential aspects to retain: the definition of the data templates, some of the keywords that are part and are the main assumptions for it. what is the information that can be consolidated in the data templates? And then, what are the main roles and actions for these data templates? To conclude, I will just would like to highlight that the GrowingCircle project is funded by the EA Grants Program, Environment, Climate Change and Low Carbon Economy Program, and it is promoted by Instituto da Construção in partnership with Trondheim University, and Co-Builder AS is a collaborator in this project with the development and improvement and support of systems to materialize data templates in Portuguese language.